And joining us from Tel Aviv, Gideon Levy, a columnist at the daily newspaper Haaretz. Many thanks for being with us here on France 24.
Thank you for having me.
Let's begin with, again, this electoral calendar before we go back to that video we saw at the outset. October 27th, the final date. Of course, you take away the number 2 in front of the October 27th, you get October 7th. So the question is, Benjamin Netanyahu, was it in his interest to perhaps to bring this up a bit?
Yes, but I don't think it will be very crucial because the 7th of October will be present in the campaigns at any date. And the whole discussion, the whole discourse about will it be 1 week earlier or later is quite marginal. Finally, there will be an agreed date, and it doesn't matter if it will be 1 or 2 weeks later or earlier.
Once, from your experience, once you've triggered a snap election, how much does that change Israeli politics?
No, the elections are in the air already for a few months, and what happened today with the Minister of National Security is just the proof for it. We are in a campaign already. I mean, all the politicians are already in campaign and everything. From now on, everything, war and peace, domestic politics, legislation, everything is now covered by the shadow of the coming elections. First, the primaries within the parties, and then the national elections.
And so I'll put to you the question I put earlier to Noga Tarnapovsky, which is taunting those detained Gaza flotilla activists. Is that a vote getter for far-right security minister Itamar Ben-Gvir?
Undoubtedly, they love it, and he knows they love it. And therefore, I really would like to say here that if Europe will continue with those really pale condemnations, those things will continue. Europe should treat Israeli tourists like Israel is treating European tourists. And those people are people of conscience who came here with a lot of courage and devotion. They don't deserve this attitude, and they have governments to fight for their rights. And condemnation means nothing because Israel totally ignores all those European condemnations. It is totally meaningless. I would like to remind you that they were also kidnapped from international water, which by itself is a violation of the international law. So in any case, if Europe is planning only to call ambassadors for a serious conversation and continue as nothing happened, then it will continue, and maybe Europe deserves it.
What does stepped up pressure on Israel look like then?
Remember Ukraine, Russia, 2 weeks after the invasion to Ukraine, and there were sanctions on Russia, 2 weeks. And what about the invasion to Gaza? What's the difference exactly? 2.5 years ago.
At this point in time, is the mood changing on that score? How's the general population inside of Israel viewing this? I asked you about Ben-Gvir supporters, but generally speaking, is there going to be a swing towards a more moderate vote?
Look, Israel is divided on those things. There are many, many Israelis who feel like me. Terrible shame on such a day. I mean, those videos are really so shameful that you don't want to watch them and you don't want to be part of it. But Ben-Gvir knew exactly why he does it, because there is a big camp. Xenophobia in Israel is stronger than ever. And he will now present this step, like many others, as his fight against the world, which is totally anti-Semite in his eyes. All Gaza are Hamas. There are no innocent people in Gaza in his view. And there are, you know what, no innocent people in Europe. You're all anti-Semites in his mindset. And therefore, many, many people who support it will be very happy and very proud to humiliate Europeans like this, European peace activists. It must be mentioned again and again. Those people are adorable people who were courageous enough to go to this mission.
Gideon Levy, let's hear from another precinct. The U.S. president earlier was asked about the Israeli prime minister. Remember, we're at a time when the U.S. is trying to broker a deal between Israel and Lebanon, trying to keep a lid on it when it comes to its negotiating with Iran. Let's listen to Donald Trump.
And he'll do whatever I want him to do. He's a very, very good man. He'll do whatever I want him to do, and he's a great guy. To me, he's a great guy. Don't forget, he was a wartime prime minister, and he's not treated right in Israel, in my opinion. I'm right now at 99% in Israel. I could run for prime minister, so maybe after I do this, I'll go to Israel, run for prime minister.
Several parts to unpack there. First off, he'll do whatever I want him to do, referring to Benjamin Netanyahu. How's that going to go down?
First of all, it reflects the reality. Ever since the war over Iran, Israel is totally depending on the United States, and Israel is totally paralyzed. Israel cannot do one step now without the approval of Donald Trump. For sure not with Iran, but also in Gaza and Lebanon. Israel is very, very depending on the United States. The more Israel is becoming a pariah state, the more it depends on the one and only country in the world which still supports and finances and sends weapons to Israel and supports Israel diplomatically and internationally. Israel is in a situation in which it was never before, total dependence. And Netanyahu has no other choice but to follow the instructions of Donald Trump. Add to this the fact that I don't know, but my assumption is that Donald Trump feels cheated. And Netanyahu promised him the sky. Netanyahu promised him a short war over Iran and regime change. This didn't happen. Donald Trump is deep in problem now. He stands in a deadlock in Iran. He has no clue how to get out of it. And I will not be surprised if he will very soon start to blame Netanyahu for this.
Gideon Levy, there's another part in that clip that we heard that matters. He describes Netanyahu as a wartime president. The Israeli prime minister, who boasts of a nation that can act as a super Sparta, that is to say, to be shaped by being, well, permanently at war. So what happens now, again, in this electoral cycle, if Israel is pressured to make peace?
Israel will not be pushed to make peace because for Israel it's always easier to make war rather than peace. I would like to remind the American president that the man that he's so admiring, adoring, is wanted by the criminal court, the International Criminal Court in The Hague, not something that can be ignored so easily. Not many politicians in history, heads of states, were wanting by the most important legal authority in the world. And yes, Netanyahu is a leader in war, and he is responsible for the genocide in Gaza, for the destruction in Lebanon, for the bombarding, which didn't lead to anywhere in Iran. Yeah, if someone is proud about those things, go ahead.
Gideon Levy, I want to thank you so much for joining us from Tel Aviv. I want to thank Noga Tarnapovsky, our correspondent in Jerusalem, as well.